he is really very much competent in this. He has done many other certifications also. Uh, he has PGD in Advanced Food Safety, Diploma in Sanitation Management. He has done Total Quality Management, Train the Trainer, a whole line of certifications he's done. So his main focus has been in food processing industry, but also in other industries. So he has more than 25 years of business exposure in organizational excellence in both manufacturing and service sector. So he has this wide range of knowledge and experience, and he is running his own business, his own consultancy firm in Toronto, and he is very successful in the international level. He has also shown leadership in implementing, mentoring, auditing. So he undertakes audits of food safety and quality standards, and he has visited more than 200 companies and um, audited them and facilitated them. And so he has wide range of experience in organizational behavior and these all other competencies. So we want to welcome Dr. Abdul Basit to this forum and appreciate your time for this purpose. Um, Students hopefully will be joining soon. They're just coming along. So Dr. Basit, you can introduce yourself, and then I will also want to give a little bit more background about why this is important, and then we can get started with your presentation. Yes, you can. Yes, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
At some point, if the connection drops or my voice doesn't get you, you can always kind of interrupt and kind of have a communication. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen. Yes.
Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Basit here. And today's topic is challenges and bottlenecks in inducing change to an organization. As it has introduced me, really appreciate a nice introduction. I will not take much time on my introduction. It's me kind of bringing along 27 years of intercontinental business exposure in organizational excellence, operations, advanced QA, TQM, advanced food safety management, regulatory affairs, lean manufacturing, and subjects like that. I had been part of Nestle, Mars, Tetra Pak, and Coca-Cola as an employee. And I had the provisions to work with various organizations throughout my career. This is my credentials. I don't have to go over each and everything. My core area has been organizational behavior, and my doctorate has been in leadership, change, and organizational behavior, where I had an opportunity to study organizational behavior as a subject. These are the areas which fascinates me, and organizational culture, cultural change, organizational behavior are among these areas. Today, the way we kind of go over the challenges to organizational change, the learning objectives will include what is change? Briefly, I touch upon why change. Change as a phenomenon. Bringing change to an organization. Changes, challenges, and bottlenecks to change. Just one sec. I'm losing. Understanding change resistance, overcoming challenges and bottlenecks, and lesson learned as an outcome of this interaction. The scope of learning today is exploring change in an organizational perspective to unfold its barriers, challenges, and bottlenecks. I have divided this presentation into 5 parts. What is change? Why change? How to change? Change bottlenecks, and how to overcome these bottlenecks. What is change? Is the organizational change? When we use the word change, we mean organizational change. And why does it matter? Organizational change, as the saying goes, the only thing constant is change. Change continues even when there is no change. What is change? Organizational changes are those that have a significant impact on the organization as a whole, as a major shift to personnel, company goals, service offerings, and operations. These are all types of organizational change. Organizational change refers to the actions in which a company or a business alters a major component of its organization, such as its culture, the underlying technologies, or infrastructure it uses to operate, or its internal processes. Organizational change is the process of shifting a company's structure or other significant element to improve operations or meet new challenges. Organizational change management is required to manage change. It's a strategy or the processes of guiding organizational change to a successful resolution. Typically include three major phases: prep phase, implementation phase, and follow-through phase, where we verify what did we do, what did we achieve. We did good or we did not achieve enough. The focus of change is always building a better working world by realizing business transformation through the power of people, technology, and innovation. In the change process, the urge and the focus is always to bridging the gaps, to improve organizational structures and overcome challenges. Change is like an iceberg. Change is a word like the way whatever we see, what the visual part is, very little. A lot is to understand before we embark on change and before we overcome the challenges linked with change. There are different types of organizational changes. There are two major change or categories of organizational change. We call them adaptive changes or transformational changes. Today's focus is transformational changes. When we say adaptive changes, small incremental changes to organizational that the organization adapt to address needs that evolve over a period of time. And transformational changes are large in scale and scope. Then adaptive changes involve major shifts in mission, strategy, structure, performance, and processes. Some examples of adaptive change include upgrading a piece of software or introducing a new training program. They are not revolutionary changes, but they serve the purpose of introducing necessary changes to the company. And on the other hand, transformational changes have a large scale and scope than adaptive changes. This strategy features much larger changes involving multiple areas of the company. Companies choosing this approach usually have a bigger goals and introduce these changes more abruptly than with the adaptive strategy. Because of their scale, these changes often take a substantial amount of time and energy to enact. A dramatical shift in the economy or the emergence of a disruptive new competitor or a competitor's new product gaining immense popularity or issues impacting a company's supply chain are examples of transformational change. Or you introduce a operation management software into the system and then everyone has to be linked with that. Everyone has to learn it, and it's a big change throughout the organization. It's the transformational process, not just a change, it's a transformation, and it reflects organizational culture. The culture is tested in transformational changes. When we can then further divide the type of changes into strategic changes, operational changes, people-centric change, structural change, technological change, cultural change, anticipatory change, unplanned change, remedial change, or reactive change. These are one way, the other way, part of either adaptive change, or ideally they are the notions of transformational changes. Now, change and challenges, that's the actual subject of today. Change is constant. In the ever-evolving landscape of modern work, change is a given thing. Organizations across every industry recognize the need to adapt to shifting market dynamics, emerging technologies, and evolving customer expectations. The concept of organizational change has taken center stage as a response to these dynamics. However, the road to successful change implementation is full of challenges that can hinder progress and undermine the desired outcome. Is change management a skill? Yes, it is. Recognizing the need for a change or knowing how to make that change successful are two different skills. We urge to make a change, but how to make a change is a skill. Change management strategy is key, but where to embark on? It all kickstarts with understanding what type of organizational change you are making. Today's leaders are aware that the change is extremely complex and that a heavy-handed top-down approach is really successful. Thinking about how to manage change has moved from an academic exercise to the creation of actionable guidelines for business leaders. Why change? Most companies understand the need for organizational change. According to a research study, 96% of companies say they are in the middle of a business transformation. They are in the middle of a change. That's a good thing, but the study did find a downside. Less than half of those organizations, though, thought they wouldn't see any sustainable value from their change effort. It's a confusion. They lost the way in the way, or they don't know how to reach to the end. It has been stated that 70% of change programs fail to achieve their goals, mostly because of employee resistance and lack of management support. However, if people are truly invested in change, it's 30% more likely to be successfully implemented. Failed change effort of an organizations are there. It's not just when the organizational fail, it's not just the loss of time and money or implementation of the program, but it is the larger organizational cost, productivity decline, poor quality of work, employee attention, disengagement, damaged reputation, poor customer service, and the normalizing of the failed change. These are all the losses, company at the losing end, and they lose credibility. There are so many models for change and models and theories. Uh, we have like 7 models I have picked to share with you guys. Lewin's change management model, the McKinsey's 7S model, the Porter's change management theory, the Edgar change management model, Bridges transition model, and Kubler-Ross change management framework, the Satir change management methodology. So many experts have offered over a period of time different models to approach change. Change is not a simple phenomenon. Change is tricky, and change is detrimental to the organization if not addressed well, if not approached well. Employee reaction to change, because the employee are the key ingredients in the change. Confusion and self-consciousness, they start with confusion and self-consciousness when the change starts. Anger, disbelief, stress, excitement, disappointment, or satisfaction is the end of a change. They're disappointed with the change, or they satisfied with the change. People will feel awkward, ill at ease, and self-conscious at the beginning. People initially focus on what they have to give up. People will feel alone, even if everyone else is going through the same. People can handle only so much change. People are at different levels of readiness for change. People will be concerned about having enough resources. People will long to revert to their old behavior. So the behavior of individual is paramount in change. Reaction to change. If I take Kubler-Ross model, it has following steps or stages of the phases in the change. Shock. People get shocked when they enter into the first phase of the change. Denial, frustration, depression, experiment, decision, integration. And if we open up further, at the beginning, they surprise or shock at the event. They go into denial, disbelief, looking for evidence that it is true. They get frustrated. Recognition is there that the things are different, sometimes angry. Then they go into depression mode, low mood, lacking in energy because they're not sure what is happening, what's going on. Then they decide to experiment. Initial engagement with new situation, they want to try it. And then they make a decision to join and be part of the mode. The learning how to work in the new situation, feeling more positive, then that process of integration starts. Changes, integrated, a renewed individual is there. Changes into the phases, they discover, they visualize, they engage, they enable, and they embed. So they discover, then they visualize what is possible, what could go wrong, and what may go, where may go, and engage themselves in the process. It enables them to embrace the change, and then the changes are embedded into the culture. It's a normal phenomenon of a working people working together. They pass through these phases, they join, they are like forming, groups are formed, they storm, they're excited. Okay, they are part of the group, things will change, things will move. Then they norm, they understand the realistic view, they realize what is possible, what's not possible, and then they perform. They're performing, working as a one in producing results. Bottlenecks and challenges in change. Now we explore what bottlenecks and change in specific we can have in our process of change management initiatives. The obstacles to change can often prove formidable and intimidating. To survive in the business world, companies have to learn how to handle these challenges and enact constructive organizational change that prepare them for the future. I have jotted down, I have selected 12 barriers to change. Starting with the first one, incomplete or poorly defined strategy, fail to plan, lack of clarity, lack of preparedness and readiness to change is the first obstacle. The second one is lack of executive support and active sponsorship. The third one is rigidity and inflexibility of their plan. The fourth one is ineffective change communication, lack of effective communication, lack of shared vision. Disconnect between strategy and culture is the fifth bottleneck. Culture resistance, change resistance culture, failing to identify and address resistance, strategic shortcomings are there. And the sixth one is lack of organizational buy-in, lack of engagement. We call that change fatigue or lack of motivation. The seventh one is setting unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations are timeline. Not creating and celebrating short-term wins and they burns out is the eighth bottleneck. The ninth one I have selected the lack of measurable outcome. They're lost in the way it's very difficult to measure behaviors. So they may lost in the way because they have not established measurable outcomes and optics. The 10th one is lack of capacity building, inadequate training and support. And 11th is the juggling multiple simultaneous changes. So they focus on, instead of focus on one or two major changes, they do things side by side. And the 12th is sustaining the change, failure to sustain change. Now we explore these one by one. The first one I shared is starting with incomplete plan and poorly defined strategy. Fail to assess and adequately plan before you dive in is the major sin in change management initiatives. Planning dilemma, we call that fail to plan, starting with an incomplete or poorly defined strategy. When thinking about an organizational transformation, leaders often focus on what the change is and why it's necessary. However, failing to give equal priority to how the change will happen can undermine and transformation of effort. Without a comprehensive change management strategy, short-term tactical decision can delay and undermine long-term results. They can lead your organization down an unexpected or unwanted path and make it more difficult or even impossible to achieve the desired results. As you build out your strategy, identify areas of resistance and potential problem you think you may encounter. SWOT. Its strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Analysis can be a helpful tactical tool to help develop alternate pathways to achieve your long-term goals. I mean to say, if you do a better SWOT and build your strategy on the principles, fundamentals of resilience and management and governance, then you are very likely to be achieving the goals. It's a saying, fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Lack of clarity at this stage, and lack of clarity is any initiative is a detrimental thing to the cause. Change is often difficult if you lack a clear vision. If you're unaware of the current state of your organization, you will not be able to bring it to the desired future state. If you are unclear of the vision that drives the change and the implementers will lack clarity as well, it will derail the entire initiative. Complexity is an enemy. Whenever complexity is there, things are not clear, it offers challenges. The biggest enemy of thinking is complexity. So we must be clear about what we are trying to do and how we are trying to do. Successful change plan is always aligned with the company goals and capabilities, not just goals. The capabilities are equally important. What they are capable, what organization, what individual, what teams, and what resources are there. The second bottlenecks we picked was management commitment and sponsorship issues. Senior management commitment and sponsorship is always paramount to support change initiatives to manage ongoing issues and challenges. Management commitment is required beyond budget. It's not like they allocate budget and let that go and let the teams or middle management or lower management to work on change initiative. Their active involvement is key. Change initiative leadership is required at every level. Lead from the front. In any change that is a transformational change, leading from the front is the basic requirement that is expected from the leadership. Change leadership commitment is critical. Leading from the front, ongoing support, ongoing sponsorship, adequate resources, resource provision, change review. So they are with the process of change and review over a period of time. They are achieving KPIs or objectives or goals or not. It's paramount. Environment aligned with site's change drive is the basic requirement. The success of a change lies in the company-wide shared vision. So everyone is at the same level. The culture of company linked with the behavior of stakeholders directly and indirectly linked with change and its sustainability. And if it's not, it's the bigger issue on hand. The third bottlenecks that we chose was rigidity and inflexibility. Following a strategy that is too rigid and inflexible. Having a well-defined change management strategy can be key to keeping your change initiative on track. At the same time, however, being too dogmatic and inflexible in implementing that plan can be equally detrimental to your long-term success. No matter what, how much thought and planning you put into the strategy, you're unlikely to account for every development. Change, especially large-scale change, can take a long time, and the environment and market are also changing around you. Failure to change, failure to adapt your strategy to unanticipated or sudden developments can render your long-term strategy ineffective or at worst irrelevant. So flexibility may make minor alterations to adapt changes over the course of time is a key motive that can avoid this failure or this bottleneck. The solution is revisit your strategy plan frequently, both before and after unexpected developments occur. Be sure that your long-term vision and goals are clear, but also that your strategy includes short and mid-term objectives that you can revisit and realign to account for changes in the environment around you. Don't be afraid to make adjustments throughout the process to keep your end goals on track. Communication gap is the fourth detrimental factor that hampers change, that become a barrier, that become a constraint in inducing change in an organization. Lack of effective communication. The communication might be there, but the effective communication might not be there. Leaders often spend a great deal of time communicating about the proposed change in order to gain buy-in before beginning the change initiative. However, the change management strategies often fail or fizzle out when leaders don't communicate enough after the initiative is announced. For example, you announce your vision and strategy for change in all staff meeting. You then reinforce the message in the email to the organization or the team. Ineffective change communication, as mentioned earlier, is detrimental to change. Ineffective change communication is a major hindrance to the success of change initiative within an organization as it directly impacts employees, understanding, acceptance, and engagement with the change process. And statistically, it's proven that through a research, only 60% of managers know the actual reason for the organizational change. The number declines from 53 to 40% for mid-level managers and frontline supervisors. Poor communication, 73% of employees experience moderate to high stress level, and the affected employees perform 5% less than an average employee. Instead of announcing the changes and expecting employees to adjust, try working on an effective communication strategy that is creating a two-way dialogue where employees feel heard and involved. This helps foster a positive and inclusive atmosphere conducive to successful change. Create a short-term comprehensive explanation of your change strategy. It should be clear, consistent, and constant. Smart and clear communication is the way to go. It's not just communication, a very clear communication, and smart communication, effective communication. Excellent communication skills are required to the change leadership and everyone engaged to lead the process. Change initiative drivers must exhibit excellent communication and interpersonal skills. Communication must be clear and understandable. Communication to be done in a language of understanding. In the case of indirect communication, make sure that the message is clearly understood. Communication should qualify 7 C's of communication. Communication is clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, and courteous. Lack of clear communication develops confusion that leads to issues. Now, the fifth bottleneck that we selected is disconnect between strategy and culture. Have you heard your employees say That's not the way we do things around here. If you have, then your change management strategy is probably in conflict with your organizational culture. Change initiative that work against existing corporate culture will likely to more difficult and less likely to succeed. Demands to change workplace habits and behaviors will be met with distrust and resistance if employees lack trust that the organization will support and reward those changes in the long term. Conversely, if the proposed changes are already in line with the shared vision of the organizational purpose, goals, employees are more likely to trust that the efforts and supporting change will be rewarded. The solution for this disconnect is ensure that change management strategy is grounded in a realistic assessment of your organizational culture and vision. Even before you begin a change, make certain that senior management and frontline employees alike are aligned on organizational priorities and goals, and as well as on reward structures and tolerance for risk. An effective communication plan should include a focus on how your change supports the shared vision for your organization. Failing to identify and address resistance is part of this disconnect. Every change initiative is going to encounter resistance. This is true no matter how much you work to build a guiding coalition before launch, and no matter how well you communicate and create enthusiasm after launch. Resistance is inbuilt where individuals work together. Their agendas might be different. Their approach might be different. Their thought process might be different. Their preferences might be different. Cultural barriers are always there. Culture is not the language. Culture is not the race. Culture has embedded into so many avenues. Leadership styles and approaches to be cultivated first. Style may be a resistance. The leadership style may be resistance in itself. The longer a current process has been in the organization, the more invested employees are in it. The status quo always feels comfortable, creating a lot of inertia in the organizational. During change implementation, other cultural issues like internal politics, poor behavior control, and personal agendas start surfacing, contributing to a change resistance culture. In such an environment, employees are likely to be skeptical about the benefits of change, leading to low engagement and even active opposition. The solution is to overcome this barrier. Change leaders must map the stakeholders impacted by the change and involve them in the change initiative process. Leaders need to focus on individual transition and making the environment conducive to change. Understand and avoid resistance are two possible options. Sometimes there is no option to avoid resistance. Then we need to understand resistance, the nature of resistance, the type of resistance, and find a way how to get through or avoid resistance. Sometimes it's a possibility. We can avoid resistance. Role of leadership, the change leadership is paramount. And leadership must ask this question to themselves. Are you the bottleneck that strangles your culture? Sometimes the bottlenecks are not within employees, individuals, people. They lies within the leadership, their style, their approach, the way they handle things, the way they make decisions, the way they go about things, the way they modify their decisions, the way they handle employees, the way they communicate. So a lot is embedded in the quality and the traits of leadership available to make change happen. The solution may be make a strategic and thoughtful assessment of how the change initiative may impact your employees in order to identify potential resistance from the start and tailor your plan accordingly. Adopt and introduce and promote critical thinking mindset that is open problem-solving mindset, and it takes a lot of time. It's not an overnight thing to induce critical thinking mindset. It's the most difficult thing to bring everyone having the critical thinking mindset. If it's the case, then the job is very easy. The sixth, the most important one, lack of engagement, change fatigue, lack of motivation, and a lack of organizational buy-in. It's rigidly said, change starts at the top but happens at the bottom. For successful change initiative, you need to earn buy-in from both top management and entry-level employees. The top management buy-in is essential to add legitimacy to the change initiative. Their job is more than just supporting our initiative. It is to take the onus of the change and lead by example. However, mid and entry-level employees must be on board to implement the change at the ground level. When employees understand and believe in the necessity and value of the change, they are more likely to be motivated, engaged, and cooperative, making the transition smoother and more effective. Engaged and motivated workforce is key and paramount for a change to happen successfully and effectively. Change fatigue is another term we use to explain this disconnect and this issue. More often than not, organizations have multiple change projects in the implementation stage at one time. When change occurs in an organization simultaneously, it overwhelms the employees. The result is change fatigue. The change fatigue manifests in burnout, apathy, and frustration, all of which results in lower employee engagement and productivity. Prioritization of change management is the key to deal with this barrier to change. So the change fatigue is one of the key issues in change initiatives. Lack of motivation and engagement. Motivation and engagement plays a vital role in bringing and maintaining change. It's not just to bring change, we have to maintain change. We have to sustain the change process. Employees' engagement enhance motivation. Motivated and engaged workforce paves the way for stronger ownership. Promote, be part of the solution. The company must build a culture of engagement, an environment of critical thinking and problem solving. Individuals at any level must try to be part of the solution than just highlighting a problem. Lack of cohesion and collaboration is always a problem. And the sense, not me, it's about us, coming out of me function and embracing the us function is always a key factor in deciding the success of a change. The seventh, bottlenecks, barrier, and hindrance is setting unrealistic expectations. Sometimes we go enthusiastic, excited, and the setting objectives are unrealistic. One of the major pitfalls when starting a change initiative is to push too hard for too much and too quickly. Rushing through a change increases the risk of mistakes and removes the opportunity to respond appropriately to change events. And moving too fast can quickly burn out both your team and your organization. Change fatigue can quickly undermine even the most enthusiastic team. The pressure to do too much too quickly comes in several different forms. The need for momentum. People in organizations alike have short attention spans. Can be challenging to sustain enthusiasm for a change over the long term and over the long course of time. What could be the solution? Managing expectations, both positive and negative, during a change initiative is just important as managing the change itself. Remind yourself and your key stakeholders frequently that true change time takes time. A well-paced solution is much more likely to be effective and successful. Be sure that your strategic plan is realistic in its goals and intended outcomes. Outline a clear timeline. with both short-term and long-term objectives. Short and mid-range goals will help your team stay on target without moving too quickly. Be realistic about your goals. Sometimes the goals are clear, but not realistic, and we cannot achieve those goals. And then we say change failed. Unrealistic expectations or the unrealistic timeline, ambitious goal while inspiring can often lead to undue pressure on teams, resulting in rushed and substandard implementation efforts. That's why avoid unrealistic expectations and unrealistic, not achievable timelines. Another aspect that can create problem is another hindrance, a bottleneck is not creating and celebrating short-term wins. Just go, 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 and keep moving. Must take pause, must stop, must have milestones, must have a in-between milestones, and celebrate small wins. Pushing for change too quickly can lead to burnout. Yet, not showing positive progress in a timely manner can be equally detrimental. Employees and teams can easily lose momentum and enthusiasm for a change if they feel they are not making progress. And the more difficult the change is, the more it requires changing behavior or making sacrifices, the more quickly your team will lose interest. So to keep them interested, enjoy, celebrate milestones. Then another bottlenecks, fail to establish change assessment optics. How change will be measured. We make a plan, we communicate a plan, we know how to reach there, but we don't put together how we will be measuring and assessing. We don't optics or standards or limits are not established. Our clear limits are not established. Lack of measurable outcome, it always paramount to set clear and achievable goals. Without measurable outcomes, it's impossible to tell if a change was successful or not. Before implementing any changes, take the time to set clear goals and objectives. That way, you will be able to track your progress and ensure that change was worth making. Focus on process and individuals. Behavioral change is complex. Culture may not be understood through paperwork or scorecards. So take a step back and establish what would be the indicators, how the change will be measured. What would be the indicators? Establish those indicators well before embarking on a change initiative. 10th, bottlenecks is adequate capacity building for change. Are we ready for change? Are we trained individuals? Are all those folks in the change process, all stakeholders adequately? Training and development is the key in changing mindsets. Training, learning, capacity building to understand change focus is always required. Lack of adequate capacity building. Training, education, and capacity building is required to build strong foundation for change initiatives. If training needs are not assessed, right, it may lead to failure in the change initiative. Smartness in training and capacity building paves the way for stronger organizational culture. Capacity building failure is always detrimental. Failure to achieve adequate capacity building, a lack of resources, including time, money, and training, can hinder successful change implementation. So like resources not available, time not available, and education not available are equally important. Inadequate preparation can lead to underwhelming results and frustrated employees. So they must be adequately aware. Inadequate training causes employee to need more skills, knowledge, and confidence to navigate the changes. This leads to clarity, errors, and increased productivity. This gap in training can result in a lack of engagement with the change process and even foster resistance, and employees might feel overwhelming or unsupported. Furthermore, inadequate training can lead to a more extended adjustment period, increased reliance on support resources, and potential disruption in day-to-day operation. Practical training is crucial for ensuring that employees are well prepared to handle new challenges and responsibilities, and for fostering a positive attitude towards the change. It always a vital role in ensuring that the intended benefits of the change initiative are realized fully and efficiently. Finding the right mode of learning is a key question. Always a key question: how individuals will learn. They will learn one-on-one learning, conversation style learning, group learning, in-person lectures, online learning, or any other way. They learn by visualization, they learn by reading, they learn by listening, and they learn by doing. There are four ways to learn. So how they learn better and how to engage them is a $1 million question in change initiatives. When to retrain? You have trained them once. When is an opportunity to retrain them? To refocus? It's the assessment that must be made. The training need assessment is done. When to retrain? Refresher trainings. When to do a refresher training? And refresher requires for the whole educational process or part of the process. To bridge the gap, refresher trainings and learning is key. The training is done for transformation, learning to perform, and efficacy challenge is always big. Training or learning and development, why to measure training effectiveness, how to measure training effectiveness, tools to monitor effectiveness, and how to link learning to indicators is a big data questions. Reaction after someone learn leads to learning, to behavior, and that brings results. So learning effectiveness paves the way for success in change initiatives. Then the 11th and the second last bottlenecks is juggling multiple simultaneous changes. Instead of focus on one or two changes, you juggle with multiple changes simultaneously. Managing multiple changes at the same time is always tricky. This can be a recipe of disaster if you are not careful. When you are trying to implement multiple changes simultaneously, try to prioritize and focus on one change at a time. Doing too much at once will only lead to confusion and maybe frustration. Keep focused. Keep yourself focused. Number 12, and the last selected bottlenecks is sustaining change. Failure to maintain change. Measuring and sustaining change even after implementation, sustaining change poses its own set of challenges. Measuring the long-term impact and ensuring that new behaviors become ingrained can be intricate tasks. At times, it's itself a challenge to sustaining the change long-term. Once you made the initial changes, have a plan in place for how to maintain them. This may include things like ongoing training, regular check-in, setting up KPIs to track progress. By taking these steps, you can ensure that the change stick around for the long haul. What is the solution? The solution is stick with the focus. Keep reviewing what did you achieve and following up. An effective change process that can always keep us on track is define, plan, implement, and sustain. That is the key to keep on track. Clearly define, companies need to set realistic expectation regarding the coming change along with what they hope to accomplish. Organizational will then design the overall plan for factoring in its impact on company as a whole, along with the individual departments and employees. It's a planning phase. Then the implementation If the plan is right, if you plan well, you can implement well. This step represents the execution of the plan and requires the cooperation and coordination of top-level executives, department leaders, managers, and all team members in the organization. The fourth and the last step is sustain. After implementation of the plan, managers should monitor reactions and measure results. This is an ongoing step to ensure that the change benefit the company and will into the future, endure well into the future. Look like define, plan, implement, and sustain look like simple, but they ask for a lot. I'm through with the presentation now. I open up for questions, feedback, and discussions. If there are any questions, I'm here.
Yes, so thank you very much. The presentation was well prepared. And I think there's some echo. Okay, let me just. So yes, thank you very much, Dr. Basit. It was really very informative discussion about change management. Yes, from the students, anybody has any questions about what Dr. Basit just explained? Yes, any questions?
You can unmute yourself if you have any questions and ask questions. I always welcome questions. What comes to your mind? You're a student of change management, organizational behavior, anything. You are kind of future practitioners. Anything that come to your mind that pose a question to you.
Yes, anyone? Amardeep, Aniket, Charanjit, Grace, John, Kitan, Rohit. Any thoughts?
Hi, sir. Hi,
Yes.
Basit. It's
Yeah.
great to have you here. I have a question. Like, I was working with an organization from past 6 years, and when I was looking for them for on-site, so I was not getting, positive response. Though I was working fine, and beside that, there was a like a politics things. They should go first. They should. It was not based on the task. So I moved out. So going forward, these type of decisions, and so how to tackle this into an organizational behavior mode, if you can a little bit.
Every organization you join will be different in culture and pose different challenges. Though ideally we must be fit enough, we must be realistic enough, we must be flexible enough to embrace the organizational culture. Yes, sometimes the culture is toxic. Sometimes the culture pose different questions and individuals cannot sustain. Yes, the key is flexibility because every other organization, every new organization we join, I work for Nestle, Mars, Coca-Cola, Tetra Pak. In all our four organizations, I had different challenges. And every individual will have challenges. So the key is flexibility, take time, give time to them. And sometimes whatever we see, this is an opposition, there is an opportunity there. Whenever there's an opposition, there's an opportunity there to go and grow in that organization and be successful. So the flexibility is key and giving time to flourish in that organization. People will always pose questions, pose challenges. Organizational culture is always a challenging thing.
Yes, I agree. I mean, it's
Okay.
whether there are different leadership styles. You can be working in a multinational company with a huge, large, structure, or you could be working in a smaller company. There's always challenges everywhere. Yes, you have to manage them accordingly. Yes.
We did a research in my own research and PhD where I interviewed, the topic was leadership styles. And as I rightly mentioned, leadership style pose a different challenge. Leadership is not only the top manager's leadership, is the senior management leadership, is the management and the middle management. Leadership style always paramount at every level. And I asked this question, what is your leadership style? Every leader, we interviewed more than 100 presidents of stronger companies, bigger companies. Their answer was diversified. Their answer was different, and all were successful. So there's no one answer. You have to cope with
Yes.
leadership style and learn a style that manages their shortcomings.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone else?
Thanks, Basit.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, just to summarize, I wanted to bring your guys' attention to this here. This is from Project Management PMBOK, your book. If you open up the book and you look at the PMBOK guide in PMI, here, this is the models mapped against performance domains for project management. The different information that Dr. Abdul Basit mentioned, you can see it here. Leadership models, there's situational leadership, there's Oscar, there and many others. There are, if you read about it, there are 20 different models of leadership. Then communication, as Dr. Basit said, communication, you need to be really competent that 80% of the time of the project manager is spent communicating. You're talking to other people, you're sending email, you're making reports, you are with your team, with top management, with other people. So that is, there are models for that also. Then motivation, there are different models for motivation. You make a plan, as he mentioned, you made a plan and you give it to your team. They don't do it, there may be some other reasons, underlying reasons. So there are theories for those. Then these that Dr. Basit has explained in detail, some of them are here in our in PMBOK, managing change in organization, the ADKAR method, then 8-step process for leading change transition. And as you can see, this is dealing with stakeholders. When you are dealing with stakeholders, you need to understand what change is coming with your project. If you're doing a project, you are bringing about a change and you need to plan for it accordingly and interact with the stakeholders. So that is important. Then, of course, there's complexity, team development. Your team also, there will be people coming and going. And then there's the other models, conflict, negotiation, planning, etc. So this is in your, this is not something which is separate. It is ingrained within your um, project management that you must be competent in, right? And also, I wanted to show you also another thing also, which is relevant to what Dr. Bassett was saying. So what is change? Change is actually, so let's come here. So if you go to PMI, the CAPM, this is the topics for CAPM exam. When you study for the Certified Associate in Project Management exam, business analysis is a part of the topic. And under business analysis is understanding the distinguish between stakeholder roles and responsibilities and conduct stakeholder communication, gather requirements from them, roadmaps, and manage that. So this is all a part of the change management that you understand the stakeholders. And as he mentioned, software, you develop a software. If you can't implement it in the company, if the company will not accept the project, the software, they may say, oh, we've been doing it this way, we don't want to make any changes. Or they try it out and they say, oh, this is difficult, it's not working. Then your whole project is useless. So you really need to understand. That's why it's important to understand this. That is for the CAPM. And for the PMP, if you look at that, you will study, you need to know about that here. You can see here, support organizational change, assess organizational culture, evaluate impact of organizational change to project and determine required actions, evaluate impact of the project to the organization and determine required actions. So this is a key element in your project, understanding the environmental changes, external environmental changes for impact on scope. So all this whole section, the business environment is really all about change, right? Compliance, what are the rules, regulation, are you meeting it or not? And what is the benefit of the project? If you cannot show the benefit of the project, then you can't bring about change. People will not accept your product. You're going to just say, oh, this is useless. It's just a waste of company money. So understanding this, and so I don't know, like one student was mentioning, oh, there was some, politics issues. So you can possibly overcome that by having your proper analysis done of the benefit of the project and properly communicating that to the stakeholders and to the also employees and everyone who will use that change and manage the change. So this is critical. This is a critical aspect of a project manager competency. And as he mentioned, so this here also is relevant to that, what he's mentioned, why projects fail. There are 101 different reasons why projects fail. And they all come into these categories, which a lot of them are related to change management. One is organizational planning failures, leadership failures. So yes, if your leaders are not properly trained and they don't manage the teams properly, underestimation, analysis failure, quality failures, risk failures, skills competency failures. This is, of course, people issues, communication failures. You didn't properly communicate what needs to be done, how it's supposed to be done, and you don't measure the work that is done. And then market and strategy failure. These are more external, those which are uncontrollable. So these are common classes of project failure. So hopefully this has been helpful to you to understand the value of understanding this, what is relevant to project management, how you might be thinking, how is this relevant to project management? So I'm trying to link up what Dr. Basit has explained and your whole course also. It is organizational behavior, and that is related to project management in this context, right? So does that make sense, Dr. Basit? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Right, yes. Okay, good. I think that was a good session we had to understand these concepts, and this was very useful. I thank you for your time, Dr. Basit, and hopefully everyone has gained from that understanding. So we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for attending today's session.
Pleasure.
Okay, have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
You.
Bye, everyone.